I never thought a simple night could unravel everything I believed about my marriage. It was supposed to be routine, Emily staying home for the evening, me catching up on emails, and our quiet apartment humming with the usual calm. But the moment she left her phone on the kitchen counter, face down, I felt a small nagging sense of unease. Call it intuition, paranoia, or just experience, I couldn't shake it. Something about the way she smiled at me that morning didn't sit right, though she said nothing and I let it go. By 10 p.m., I was in bed, scrolling through the news, half listening to the faint hum of the city outside our window. Emily had promised she'd be back early, that she wanted to get some alone time after a hectic week at work. I didn't suspect much, until the clock hit 3 a.m. My phone buzzed. I groaned, assuming it was a work call, but the number displayed made my heart skip. Unknown but familiar in a way I couldn't place at first. Then the voice came, calm and confident, yet layered with a dangerous undertone. "Husband number 2, the man said. Just like that, casually, as if our entire lives were part of a trivial joke. My blood ran cold. I asked questions, clarifying, probing, but the calm amusement in his tone made my stomach twist. By now, the city outside our window was quiet, indifferent, while I felt as if the floor beneath me had shifted. He wasn't making threats. Not overtly. But the subtlety was worse, like a knife sliding silently across your skin. Every word he said hinted at knowledge, at secrets, at a relationship I had never been a part of but was suddenly forced to confront. I hung up and sat on the edge of the bed, my mind racing. Memories of Emily flashed through me. The little lies, the hidden smiles when she thought I wasn't watching. The nights she insisted she was exhausted but stayed out later than she admitted. I realized that my instincts had been warning me all along. Something had been hiding behind her laughter, her casual touches, her whispered, "I'm fine, don't worry." And now at 3 a.m. the facade had cracked, if only just enough for me to glimpse the truth. By the time she returned in the early morning hours, the apartment smelled faintly of her perfume, a trace of normalcy amid the chaos she didn't yet know awaited her. I watched the door open and freeze, her eyes scanning the room. I didn't say a word. She knew something was off. How could she not? But she couldn't possibly imagine what I now held. The invisible evidence of betrayal she had left scattered in her absence. And in that moment the balance of our lives shifted irreversibly. Emily's eyes darted around the room, hesitant, calculating. She tried to mask it with a faint smile, the same one she had perfected over years of little deceits, but it didn't reach her eyes. I stayed quiet, letting the silence stretch, letting her feel the weight of the unseen truth. Every second she lingered in that doorway, I traced the patterns of our life together. The dinners, the weekend trips, the quiet mornings we shared. And suddenly, it all felt like a carefully constructed illusion, a house of cards she had been building while I slept peacefully beneath its fragile roof. I didn't accuse her. Not yet. I only asked the questions that mattered, calmly, almost disinterestedly. "Was that your plan?" I said softly, watching her flinch. She opened her mouth, hesitated, swallowed, and then faltered. The truth hung in the air like smoke, impossible to ignore but difficult to grasp. And then it came out in pieces, fragments that revealed more than she intended. A clandestine relationship, whispered calls in the dead of night, secrets so meticulously hidden that even I, with my patience and intuition, could barely believe them. The more she explained, the more I understood the scale of what had been happening. Husband number 2, as she called him casually, was not just a name. He represented every moment she had chosen to hide, every emotion she had diverted, every promise she had broken. And yet there was no anger from me, no shouting, no dramatic confrontation. Instead, there was observation, analysis, and the cold understanding that comes from realizing your entire perception of someone you loved has been a lie. I let her talk, detailing the nights she thought I would never notice, the dinners, the texts, the times she told herself it didn't matter. Each confession was a small scalpel, cutting through the life we had built together, exposing the raw, vulnerable skeleton beneath. As she finally paused, exhausted from her own admission, I stood. The apartment felt smaller now, confined by the tension that her presence had carried for years and had finally unleashed. I looked at her, my voice calm, deliberate. "So this is your truth," I said. "The life you've been living, while I thought we were building something together." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes, the weight of guilt pressing against her chest. But it was too late for excuses. The rules had changed, and I held the leverage of knowledge, the power that comes not from anger, but from clarity. I told her I would be leaving for a while, not in a fit of rage, but to let the reality of her choices settle. You have decisions to make, I said. And so do I. The air between us was thick with anticipation, fear, and an unspoken question. What comes next when the foundation of trust is shattered? And as I walked toward the door, I realized that every small lie she had told, every moment she had chosen deception over honesty, had built a bridge I could now cross, but only on my terms. The morning light spilled across the apartment, indifferent to the storm that had raged in the shadows. Emily sat on the couch, silent, the phone clutched in her hand as if it were both a shield and a confession. I didn't rush her, didn't demand answers. I let the silence press against her, a mirror reflecting every choice she had made. The apartment, once a place of comfort, now felt like a courtroom, and every look she gave me was evidence of the life she had hidden. Hours passed in a tense stillness, broken only by the occasional rustle of her movements, the soft sighs of someone realizing the gravity of their own actions. And then she spoke, haltingly, her voice brittle. I didn't think you would find out. Her words trembled, revealing fear, shame, and a faint hope that somehow, I would forgive everything without consequence. But forgiveness is a currency that must be earned, not freely given, and tonight I held the balance of power. I told her calmly that actions have consequences, that trust, once broken, cannot simply be repaired with words. She listened, the color draining from her face, as I laid bare the reality she had been avoiding. Every late-night call, every whispered conversation, every fleeting moment of affection she had misdirected was accounted for. Not with anger, but with the precision of someone who understands human nature and knows how to navigate betrayal. And as I spoke, I saw the realization settle in her eyes, that the life she thought she could manipulate, control, and deceive had finally slipped from her grasp. By the time the first rays of sunlight hit the window pane, Emily understood that nothing would ever be the same. She had tested boundaries, challenged loyalty, and placed her desires above the life we had built. And now the consequences were undeniable. I left the apartment with one final look, a silent statement that the game had changed. She would have to face the reality she had created, and I would finally reclaim the peace of mind that had been stolen in whispers and half-truths. Later, when she recounted the night to herself, she would remember the cold, unwavering calm in my voice, the way I held the truth like a mirror, reflecting every deceit she had sown. And in that reflection, she would finally grasp what it meant to betray someone who had trusted completely, and the cost of underestimating the quiet strength of the one they had chosen to deceive. That night marked an ending, but also a beginning. A beginning where clarity, awareness, and consequence replaced illusion, leaving behind only the truth, stark and unyielding.